You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible. California Democratic donor Ed Buck is in jail, arrested late last night for running a drug den. That is according to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. Buck, of course, was arrested. This follows two black gay men dying in his apartment, but it was the overdose of another man. We don't know his race that caused the cops to finally arrest Ed Buck. We, of course, have been one of the few media sources who really is focused on this. Jasmyne Cannick, of course, an activist out in Los Angeles and journalist, she really has been raising the awareness, trying to get media and other outlets to pay attention to the case of Ed Buck. Now that a third person has OD'd, now all of a sudden they decided to actually arrest him. He's charged with 3 counts of battery causing serious injury, administering methamphetamine, and maintaining a drug house. Prosecutors said Buck injected the victim with methamphetamine at his apartment in West Hollywood on September 11th. The victim suffered an overdose, but he has survived. In fact, last night when the news broke, Jasmine sent me a tweet and she's posted she immediately went down to West Hollywood, has posted a series of photos as well from the crime scene. Again, and all of a sudden you got people out here, media, who all of a sudden want to pay attention to this story when Jasmyne Cannick had been begging for attention for so long. And so whether it was the Tom Joyner Morning Show, whether it was my TV One News One Now show and Roland Martin Unfiltered, we really were the first outlet, the national outlet, to really shine the light on this case in demanding that Ed Buck be brought to justice. I want to bring in my panel today, Monique Presley. She's a legal analyst and crisis manager. Eugene Craig, CEO, Eugene Craig Organization. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, she is economist, president emerita, Bennett College. And Dr. Cleo Manago, political and behavioral analyst. I want to go to you, Monique, first. The fact that the district attorney's office finally decided to charge Ed Buck, 2 black men already dead. Now you have a third person ODing. People have been saying finally, and that's really what this is about, justice with this guy.
Well, there's justice when justice is done. An arrest is not a trial or a sentencing or a conviction or any of those things that would mean that someone is actually going to pay for crimes if crimes have been committed. So I am glad that this has happened because there have been too many things, terrible things to go on surrounding this one man's actions for there not to be some action taken. But in these United States, I'm sorry, I'm reserving all possible signs of optimism.
Of course.
I
Cleo
frankly don't know why people are so excited.
Well, the excitement, Monique, is the arrest.
Excited. Well, one second. Here's what the issue is, and this is what it boils down to, Cleo Manago, and that is Jamel Moore, African American, injected by Ed Buck, dies in his apartment. Then you have a second man who dies in his apartment. And again, folks like Jasmyne Cannick were begging for there to be a real investigation. Ed Buck, prominent Democratic donor, has given lots of money to individual candidates as well. And frankly, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office were not doing their job in conducting a real investigation. And so the reason folks like Jasmyne Cannick and the family of Jamel Moore are thankful is they find this guy is in handcuffs and there's a real opportunity for him to, again, to meet justice, because he frankly has been running scot-free. And in fact, Jasmine posted a photo of another young black man who Ed Buck had invited into his apartment and then decided to throw him out and then call the cops on the guy. So this guy is a predator.
He absolutely is a predator. And I agree with what Monique said, though. And also another element to this is that so far the talk is about him possibly getting charged with something like a 5-year sentence. That's nothing.
Well, no. No, but let's be clear. He's been charged with 3 counts.
Right.
Now, in terms of what the sentence carries, that's different. And so, again, that's what there are 3 charges. Go ahead.
Okay, well, what's in the press, what's in all the press is that they're talking about potentially 5 years. So that's really, even if indeed that occurs, two people died. And so that's really kind of a normal sentence considering what he's done. But the other issue I think is important for us to look at is that Los Angeles has a relatively large community, and this happened, a homosexual community, and this happened right in West Hollywood under the watch of that community. And that community knows how to create a commotion when it's upset about something that it doesn't like, and they never created a commotion about this death factory that this man had right in West Hollywood.
Yep.
They never said anything about it. So I'm glad that he finally was arrested as well, but again, we need to look at the fact that there's the negligence from the local community, and the charges are really small compared to what he's actually been accused of.
And Julian Malveaux, that is absolutely right. Jasmyne Cannick and others had to essentially embarrass white gay folks in Los Angeles to stand up and fight against Ed Buck. And there were Democratic candidates who were resisting giving back money that he had given to their campaigns.
That's, Roland, that's the disgrace of the whole thing. I mean, Monica's right when she says we're not optimistic, but the arrest is progress. But when you look at the list of donors, you're talking about Ted Lieu, who's been out there talking about impeachment, talking about all this stuff. He has gotten major money from Ed Burke. You look at the rest of the names, you see prominent Democrats who've gotten money from this man. Meanwhile, this man is killing black people, killing black men, and luring them into his honeypot and then killing them. This is just absurd, but it really does speak to, when we talk about Black Lives Matter, Cleo, it's not only the GBLTQI community in LA, what about the black community in LA? Why aren't we mad that this white man brings these young black men into his home, injects them with all kind of stuff, kills them, and is still walking around hobnobbing at receptions?
Well, I went to Ed Buck's home with Cannick.
Hold on one second. I want to bring in Jasmyne Cannick right now, who joins us by phone. Jasmine, Julian made that point in terms of, look, you have been on this from day one. You've been reaching out to me. I've been retweeting and posting and having you on these shows. Yeah. And so give us a sense of the reaction, again, when this whole thing started. What was the black community's reaction? What was the white gay community reaction to when you were sitting here saying, hey, Ed Buck needs to be held accountable?
Yeah, so let me just make this clear. The black community was very supportive and has been, look, from the black media to the African American caucus of the Democratic Club, it was the African American caucus, and rest in peace, Darren Parker, who was our chair, who recently died, but it was him who took me into the caucus to push the entire party. It took the African American caucus to push the entire California Democratic Party on this issue, because at the time, the chair of the party was Ed Buck's best friend, okay? So I just want to be clear that black people in LA have been very supportive. As a matter of fact, I was at a Democratic club meeting for New Frontier Democrats last night when I got the message, and I announced it in the club, which is our oldest black Dem club here in California, and the whole room erupted, and everyone was ecstatic and happy. The white gay community, that's another story, okay? Now, yeah, the white gay community, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. I'm not going to say there was no one in the white gay community that was supportive, but overall, did I get the sense that the white gay community thought that this was an issue and wanted to do something about it? Absolutely not. Were there people in the white gay community who separated themselves?
Right.
Yes, and they did help.
And one of the things that, again, Jamel Moore's family, and what was the second gentleman who died in Ed Buck's apartment?
Timothy Dean. His name is Timothy Dean. And he was a 55-year-old black man who died on January 7th of this year. He should not have died because Ed Buck should have been behind bars from the first death with Jamel Moore. And let's be clear, people, this is the beginning and not the end. Ed Buck is only charged in this overdose of the 37-year-old that happened last week, okay? Yep. So he has not been charged in the deaths of Jamel Moore or Timothy Dean at this time, and we're going to continue to push for the charges to be amended and upgraded and to include charges around those two deaths.
Jasmine, I got to ask you this here because it was very interesting seeing folks like Ben Shapiro, this black comedian who loves Trump, Terrence Williams, and all these conservatives going, oh, if this was a Republican, the media would be all over it. And I've been blasting all of them saying, hey, where the hell y'all been? Don't try to jump on this thing now. Y'all didn't say a damn thing when you were out there, Jasmine, and others were trying, knocking on doors, trying to get national media to pay attention. Now all of a sudden you have these conservatives who now want to make this thing a Democrat-Republican thing when I'm going, they were silent about this as well. So don't be a Johnny-come-lately, Ben Shapiro, Terrence Williams, and the rest of you conservatives out there.
Yeah, well, we always tend to get that. And my concern has always been with the Democratic Party and their silence, because far too many of black people vote Democratic. And I cannot belong to a party that looks the other way when we're dying. We holler Black Lives Matter, but as was stated earlier, all black lives have to matter, including black lesbians like myself, black same-gender loving men, black gay men. We all have to matter. And so the Democratic Party has a lot of work that they need to do, particularly around race issues, issues around the LGBT community, because the silence is astounding. I will say that the local party, the LA County Democratic Party, did put out a statement this afternoon. I'm really happy about that. Still waiting to see what the state party is going to say. But, every story, as you know, Roland, is Democratic donor, Democratic activist. And rightfully so. The man has given over $1 million to candidates and elected officials in the Democratic Party. And so it would make sense that the Democrats, the party for all, the party who gets nearly all of black people's votes, would take this seriously and have something to say.
Well, Jasmyne Cannick, you have been, of course, on top of this from day one, and we appreciate your activism, always reaching out.
We appreciate you, Roland. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on your show, for having Ms. Nixon on your show, for keeping this whole issue of these two men's lives out there on your platform. So, I love you. We've been around, we've been friends for a long time, but I just got to say, I really appreciate what you do and how you do it.
Well, I appreciate it. You keep us up to date, and we'll be following this case to the conclusion. Thanks a lot, Jasmyne Cannick, live from Los Angeles, discussing the Ed Buck arrest in L.A. I want to go to Eugene Craig. Eugene, get your thoughts on this. I'm going to go back to Cleo. Eugene, go ahead.
Yeah, look, it's a tragedy. This is just the start of justice. Hopefully, the other gentlemen' lives are avenged that were lost dealing with Ed Buck. But look, the candidates that accept the money from him should give the money back. And the LA prosecutor, the overzealous prosecutor when it comes to other things, needs to be extremely zealous when it comes to this.
Cleo.
There have been black people in LA. I go to LA a lot because I'm from LA and my mother is in LA and I go to see her. And I've been to Ed Buck's home a few times. The last time I was there, Jasmyne Cannick and I were both there, and I wrote a few pieces about that experience. One of the things that concerned me was the dearth of people who were in front of his house protesting. I know there's people who care about the issue from a distance, and probably were at the event that Jasmine was at where they clapped to hear about the arrest. But when it comes to community presence, feet on the ground at this dude's house, in front of his murder den, we weren't out there. And not only was the black community at large not there, but same-gender loving people and organizations in Los Angeles were not there either. So there's paralysis all over the black community regarding stepping up for this issue. And one of the things that Jasmine said that I want to reiterate is that the black community has to start having conversations about the existence of same-gender loving people, because the lack of conversation creates a lot of trauma and invisibility among this population, which puts them at risk for the likes of people like Ed Buck, because they feel like they have no support, and because of that trauma, they do any kind of thing to survive how they experience life, including putting themselves at risk. So we need to stop ignoring this population, because they're also victims of human trafficking, They're victims of prostitution, all kinds of things because of the lack of explicit and blatant community acknowledgement of this population. So we have work to do.
And Monique, from a legal perspective, obviously he's been charged with this overdose, this third overdose, and we're still awaiting to see if they're actually going to pursue any sort of legal case as related to the two men who died in his apartment in the last year.
Right, and these are specific intent crimes, and these are grown adults, and that's why these cases are hard, and that's why what Cleo is saying is important. We have to support our community so that they're not in these positions, because it's as hard as when we're dealing with sex trafficking cases of adult women, and the women are put in the posture by public media and ultimately a district attorney's office if you're in the wrong area, where they are blamed because they were adult decision makers, and we don't understand what predatory behavior really looks like.
That's right.
And how it influences people when they are poor, when they are hungry, when they are not educated. So these are the things, these are the conversations that we have to have. The reason why predators are called predators is because they get you when you're isolated. You know, they take you away from the pack and pounce. So, Roland, these matters have to be looked at, yes, from the position of law enforcement and legal issues, but that's where the hard work is. The better work should be done keeping our folks out of these positions and getting the education and the message out there.
Roland, I'm glad that Monique raised the economic piece of this, because we're really talking about people who don't have. Yeah. You know, people, and the population that I think has been extremely vulnerable, that's not talked about a lot, are transgender women. There have been a rise in the deaths, the killings of transgender women, and many of them have, of course, been prostitutes. But being a prostitute doesn't mean that you get a murder sentence.
That's right.
And we have people, if you can't make money, if you have discrimination in the workplace, so you're going to try to make money however you can. You can't eat with gender discrimination, so you're going to try to make money however you can. And our community has been deficient in surrounding these folks with our love and support. We've had too many, especially pastors, but not only pastors, look askance at these folks' lives and judge their circumstances based on their lives. Why were these men? I've heard people talk about
in the case here, these were. Yeah, in case these were two men, these were two men. One of the issues you talked about is, again, individuals who were also homeless. And so, yeah, people who there in L.A. say Ed Buck was preying on these young black gay men who did not have the resources, and then offering them drugs as well. And so, yes, the economic piece certainly is what has been talked about in this particular case.
But Roland, I have to say that, and I got to really emphasize this and underscore this, trauma and isolation is not something that only is owned by poor people. There are people with money and people who have means who feel a sense of cultural or sexuality dismissiveness. They go in isolation based on these things, who put themselves at risk. I mean, I can tell you some stories about clients I've had who were very wealthy, who had self-esteem issues, who put themselves at risk in parks and did all kinds of things because they were struggling with self-concept. So we do ourselves a misjustice if we keep, even with people with HIV. Magic Johnson wasn't broke. You know what I'm saying? Eazy-E, Max Robinson. I can go on a long list of wealthy people who put themselves at risk because they live in a society across class that doesn't invite them into the conversation in ways that are neutral and not abusive.
But Cleo, the ones who are poorer
All right, folks,
are much more vulnerable.
Actually, folks, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Go ahead, go.
Economics makes a difference. The ones who are poorer are much more vulnerable. I'm acknowledging, not diminishing anybody's pain, but if you are homeless and someone offers you some place to sleep, you go sleep there no matter what happens. If you're hungry and someone offers you a meal,
poor people
you go
aren't
eat.
acknowledged. You and Monique both, and I agree with you, have acknowledged poor and working class people. What I'm trying to illuminate based on my experience in my profession, that there's people with all kinds of money who are at risk as well because they might be financially wealthy, but they're culturally broke.
Yeah,
and self-conceptually broken.
I'm not arguing your point. I'm just undermining.
Okay, folks. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. is my homeboy there, Gerald Albright, one of the folks performing at the Luxe Jazz Experience in Cabo, November 7th through 11th. I'm going to be there as well. Weekend-long event held at the Omnia Day Club in Los Cabos, nestled on the Sea of Cortez in Los Cabos, Mexico. Folks, it's going to be an amazing time over those 4 days. We're going to have lots of great food and drink and golf and spa, health and wellness, you name it. The second annual Luxe Jazz Experience. Of course, some great people, entertainers are going to be there. Comedian Mark Curry, Gerald Albright, Alex Bouillon, Raul Madan, Incognito, Pieces of a Dream, Kirk Whalum, Average White Band, Donnie McClurkin, Shalea, Roy Ayers, Tom Brown, Ronnie Laws, and Ernest Quarles. I'll be broadcasting Roland Martin Unfiltered for that Thursday and Friday there as well. And so we want you to be in the house. It's going to be a great time. Go to lifeluxejazz.com, LIFELUXEJAZZ.com for more information. Packages are going fast. You also want to book it soon so your airline tickets are not crazy high. So go to lifeluxejazz.com. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.